Hi there, this is Derek Cockram. I'm a student at Vancouver Island University, and over the past 6 weeks I've been taking a course called Oltd 505. It's an online course and it looks at open educational resources. This video is a summary of my learning, and I'm going to focus on 6 parts of the course that I'm going to take away and um, highlight for you. So they are ideas, sharing, networking, open licensing, open educational resources, and finally, curation. So let's get started. The first thing that I wanted to talk about was ideas. When I first took this course, I had some, and I understood what it was about. I wasn't entirely convinced of the argument that open educational resources were a great thing. I guess my reservations, and I put this into a blog post, was that lots of different industries are paid for what they do. And so my question was, what makes teaching different? Why should we be giving away our skills and expertise? And the answer to that question came in a video, an RSA video by Stephen Johnson, where good ideas come from. He says that good ideas come from the collision of smaller hunches. Oftentimes the thing that turns a hunch into a real breakthrough is another hunch lurking in someone else's mind. So the idea is, of course, that we don't have good ideas on our own so much as our thoughts, when they're combined, they sort of cross-pollinate with other people's thoughts, and that's what produces good ideas. So sharing is actually a benefit to the sharer and the sharee. As Isaac Newton put it, if he could see further than other men, it was because he was standing on the shoulders of giants. He learned from those who came before. Dean Sharsky, who's now was from another video that we watched, says, "I'm a giant derivative." The messages are overwhelmingly the same. Everyone benefits from sharing ideas and sharing knowledge. And Lauren Lessing did a talk about Aaron Swartz, who I'll get to in a moment, but there's a quotation from that I really liked, and that is this here: "If nature has made any one thing less susceptible than all others of exclusive property, is the action of the thinking power called an idea, which an individual may exclusively possess as long as he keeps it to himself, but the moment it is divulged, it forces itself into possession of everyone, and the receiver cannot dispossess himself of it. Its peculiar character, too, is that no one possesses the less because every other possesses the whole of it. He who receives an idea from me receives instruction with himself without lessening mine, as he who lights his taper at mine receives light without darkening me. That ideas should freely spread from one to another over the globe for the moral and mutual instruction of man and improvement of his condition seems to have been peculiarly and benevolently designed by nature when she made them, like fire, expansible over all space, without lessening their density at any point." And I heard that in the talk that the Lessing gave, and yeah, it made me fond of America. It's good that they have this fellow Thomas Jefferson on their money. Now, if we accept that ideas are meant to be shared and that it's good to share them, the question comes, how do we share them? And nowadays we do that through social networks and personal learning networks. In our community, Google Plus was very active, and most of the members shared quite regularly, responded to polls and posted articles and commented on thoughts, and it was very lively debate. Similarly, people did weekly summaries of their learning on blogs, Weebly and Blogger, and I know from past experience about how news can travel quickly on Facebook and information can be spread. One thing that I didn't use previously was Twitter. I mean, I had a Twitter account, but I didn't use it. And my chief argument against Twitter was that I didn't feel that I could communicate in 40 characters. I just didn't see the point. But in a video by our instructor Alex Kouros, he sort of highlighted how Twitter can be used. It's not about communicating in those 140 characters so much as it is about building networks of people. How I explained it to my wife was it's not the 140 characters. You can have conversations on Twitter, but there are better ways to talk to people than through Twitter. But what it does do is it gives you access to people you might not have access to it, and Twitter can be used to open doors and to promote your blogs and other things. So in that sense, I started seeing the usefulness of it. Now, Aaron Schwartz, his story was perhaps one of the most compelling parts of my study. There's a great video on Netflix now about his life, and he was a bit of a child. Well, he was a child prodigy, and he's responsible for RSS and Reddit. So even if you don't know who he is, you've been touched by his life. One of the things that he's responsible for was bringing public access to the public domain. He sort of made it easier for people to get information that was supposedly available to them, but lost in a flood of other information. He's also responsible for the Creative Commons. Creative Commons is a type of licensing which allows for partial rights to be reserved. It allows for free sharing of information. It takes advantage of existing copyright law, but it relaxes the restrictions placed upon a creative work. So some rights are reserved, and this is called open content. Basically, open content encourages people to reuse, re-edit, repurpose, and redistribute content. And you can see how that would be important in education, in particular for open educational resources. What are open educational resources? Well, anything that a teacher can use to educate a student counts as an open educational resource, and that's in layman's terms. There are a number of websites that you may or may not be familiar with, but the thing that you should take away is there is a massive body of materials created by teachers, for teachers, and it's all for free. I haven't begun to get through all of what is available, but the Khan Academy I have used with my grade 5 class, and I find it extremely beneficial. It allows students to work at their own pace. It's leveled. The instructional videos are good. Curriki is another. This is a sort of a collection of open educational resources. TeachBC, I included that for the union. It's not very complete. BC Campus, which is creating open textbooks for university and saving students a ton of money, and CK12, which is a resource site for K-12, which was a real mixed bag. It's just getting started. TED Ed is also an excellent resource. All of these resources, of course, require curation. There's just such a volume of it. It's hard to keep track of where everything is. So in the final weeks of the course, or the final week of the course, I should say, I looked at a couple, specifically Pinterest and Storify. And Pinterest is extremely easy to use. And Storify, initially I planned to do this final reflection with Storify, but I found it a bit more difficult. The volume of resources available is staggering and growing by the day. The only way to make sure valuable gems aren't lost in the shuffle is to find a means of organizing the material. And all of these resources, Diago and Evernote, are better for academics. Anyways, that is the sum total of my learning for the course. I hope that you appreciate how much I've taken in, and I enjoyed the course immensely, and I feel like I've got a lot of material to review in the summer. Thanks for watching.